Welcome, everyone. Join us as we talk about vaccines and retirement. Big discussion.
This is Fednobabble, where Kevin and Cassie make federal retirement benefits understandable for humans like you. These two don't hold back as they answer questions from the Fed Pilot workshops and webinars or from questions submitted by you at fednobabble.com.
So today's topic, oh boy, this is a big one, Cassie. Vaccine, the vaccine mandate.
Yeah. There is so much going on right now, and it's crazy to me to see or to hear. Well, both really, to see and hear, because I see it from friends and family who are, federal employees on my personal Facebook, and I'm hearing it from financial professionals who are working with federal employees on, what is reality and how different agencies and supervisors and all of these folks are telling employees, or what disciplinary actions are actually being taken, as opposed to how it's supposed to really work based on the president's mandate order that he's put in place. And so it's
Right.
so interesting to me to see how there's this is how it's supposed to work. Here's the expectation, but then you've got what's reality, and it's just there's such a big gap on on those two fronts. Yeah.
So here's what I suggest. I'm going to pretend like I'm a federal employee, and I'm just going to ask some questions. Does that work? Would that work for you?
Sure.
Okay. So, and I'll ask some questions that I've heard.
Okay.
All right, Cassie. I heard that from my boss. I'm watching the news, and it says one thing, and I got an email from my agency that says another thing. Like November 22nd is the drop dead date that I'm going to be. I hear that from my agency that if I'm not vaccinated by the 22nd, I'm fired, and that's it. And I've heard from my manager that I might even lose my benefit, my retirement. I haven't heard that anywhere else except for my manager. But if I don't get vaccinated by the 22nd, and I guess I have to be fully vaccinated by the 22nd. Actually, let's start there. Do I have to be fully vaccinated, or is it just the first shot, or what is that?
Okay, so the mandate says that people, or employees rather, federal employees, need to be fully vaccinated by November 22nd.
Fully vaccinated. So fully is fully, like, for example, for Pfizer, first shot 2 weeks later, second shot 2 weeks later. Is that considered fully vaccinated, or is the second shot considered fully vaccinated?
The second shot. So for Pfizer, it's actually a 3-week difference. You've got your first shot, then you've got...
Oh, it's 3 weeks. Okay.
3 weeks later, you've got your second shot.
Okay.
And then I think with the Moderna, it's 4 weeks. And so you have your first shot, and then 4 weeks later, you have your second shot. But with Johnson
I've heard
it's only one shot. Yeah.
But I've heard that you're not considered fully vaccinated until 2 weeks after, for example, the Pfizer shot, 2 weeks after that second shot, that you're not considered fully vaccinated.
Oh, well, I do know that there is, what they're saying is by November 8th, you've got to have your first shot.
Your first shot. Okay. So they're counting. They're counting. Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense then.
Because here's the deal. If you have the Johnson & Johnson, then 2 weeks later, you're fully vaccinated, right? So, and that's only one shot.
Right.
But the other ones, as long as you're, in the process of being fully vaccinated, then you shouldn't have any issues.
Okay, that makes sense.
Right?
Okay.
However,
Oh,
If you're
no.
not fully vaccinated, you say, no, thank you. I'm not getting the vaccine. I'm against it, right? There are ways around that. And I don't think that people are being informed about it,
Wait a minute.
right? Yeah. Before we go there, we're going to talk about, though, if somebody's not fully vaccinated by November 22nd. If they're not fully vaccinated, the president's mandate
Yep.
says that there will be counseling at different steps before there's
Okay.
extreme disciplinary reactions being taken.
So, wait a minute. So, the 22nd isn't a drop dead date then? Is that right? I mean, if you're not
That's what
fully
they're
vaccinated by
saying.
the 22nd, they'll give you counseling and training and try to convince you. Is there a drop dead date then?
I don't know. There's so much going on around this vaccine mandate, and some are even, saying it's too much. I think there's even a case in Florida right now where the contractors are fighting against it,
Wow.
right? Like
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
general, there's just so much going on around the vaccine. It'll be really interesting to see what continues to happen as we get closer to this date.
You know,
But
I
here's what's
have
expected based on the mandate that the president has, um, his executive order that he's put in place. What were you saying? You have what?
so I have a friend who is a contractor for the federal government, and he has diabetes and some other health issues, and he can't get the vaccine. If he did, it wouldn't be good for him health wise. And he
Right.
got the exception, and then they denied the exception after that.
Wow.
And
And that's the thing. Yeah.
what is that?
So there's two reasons that are supposed to be, uh, where people can file and apply for these exemptions. The two reasons are medical or religious, right?
Okay.
But there's limitations. They're not guaranteed just because you fill out the paperwork and apply for them. There's going to be limited exceptions. But in the case of your friend, I'm actually really surprised because he has serious medical conditions that he should be allowed. I would think those would be parameters in which they would grant
Right.
an exemption.
And they did it first, and then they took it back, which
Really?
blows my mind. And I can't tell you the degrees to which this good man went to get this job, and was so excited and has had it for only a few years now, and then it's gone.
So in that case, that person's may not be vested in the program. The CSRS refers, and he
Well,
might lose his pension.
He's a contractor.
Oh, never mind. I forgot. Sorry.
Yeah. No, that's okay. But yeah, I mean, let's go to that, right?
Sure.
So I've heard from some federal employees. In fact, I got an email recently from someone saying, "I am 2 years away from being eligible to retire, and I guess I'm gonna be fired, and so I'm gonna lose my whole pension." That was what he said to us.
Wow.
Thoughts?
I actually got 2 or 3 different financial professionals who reached out to me and said, hey, how does this work? Because this employee is being told by their supervisor that they're going to lose their pension and their benefits if they don't get the vaccine. That's not true in the case
Right.
of whether you're vaccinated or not. Are there reasons that somebody can lose their pension and their benefits? You bet. But it's very extreme. It's like treason and, aiding and abetting the other, country in a war. Like, it's some
Who knows? Maybe
serious-
they think that not getting the vaccine is treason. I don't know. Anyways, you're right.
No.
They still
No,
get to
that's-
keep it. They
but
still
they
get
still
to
get
keep.
to keep it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. As long as you have 5 years vested in the CSRS and FIRST program. Okay, so let's go back to requirements that are going to be need to be made in order to qualify for a pension, in order to be able to keep your benefits in retirement, right? That's where the requirements for eligibility rules kick in. Okay, so you've got to have 5 years vested in order to qualify for retirement and keep your benefits. You've got to have a reduced pension or an unreduced pension and some sort of immediate access to
Right.
your pension in order to keep your benefits. If you go out on a deferred retirement, you haven't met your MRA, you don't get to keep your benefits anyways. So
Right.
those are normal retirement rules, though. You will eventually receive your pension at age 60 or 62 or MRA, depending on your years of service. But you don't get to keep FEGLI or FEHB, and you don't qualify for the special retirement supplement.
Right.
That's normal. But on an MRA plus 10 or regular retirement, 50s or MRA with 30 or 60 with 20, 62 with 5 years, you get to keep those benefits.
Right.
All of those rules, but you have to qualify for that type of retirement,
Okay,
right?
so if I'm a federal employee and I say, well, that's not what my manager told me, or that's not what my HR told me, I'm caught in a catch-22 here, or am I? Because I don't know what to do now.
Listen, if you were going to lose your pension and your benefits because of not being vaccinated, I really feel like that would have been in the executive order, right?
And it's not. Right.
And it's not. That's not part of the disciplinary factors or actions rather that can be or consequences, if you will, that are given to an employee because they're unvaccinated. So the consequences that are supposed to happening are what we talked about: the counseling, the education, and that sort of thing to kind of steer people to get vaccinated, right? But other agencies, I feel like, are going to the extreme because here's the deal: the mandate was put in place by the president, but it is given the responsibility of what those disciplinary actions are supposed to be to the agency. So it's their responsibility to see or to put into action what they're actually going um, to have per agency or per department, right? So
So
one agency can say, yes, that's what we're going to do. The other agency can say, nope, if they're not fully vaccinated by this date, they're out, which
so if
I've
I'm working
heard
for
is going
if,
on.
if I'm working for NASA and I've got a buddy at DOJ, the way it works could be very, very different for both of us.
Yes.
But we assume that because we're both federal employees that it works the same. So all this information is being spread between people, water cooler stuff all over the place because they're panicking. They're trying to figure things out. And it is an absolute mess out there.
Yes. Yes. Wow. They're not going to lose their pension and their benefits as long as they qualify for the right retirement, right? And I've got a situation right now where I dealt with a financial professional just 2 weeks ago on a federal employee couple, right? One of them has not met his MRA, but he has the years in service.
Okay.
The other, the spouse, has met their MRA, but not quite their full years of service. They'll get their full years of service in December.
Oh,
so if
weeks after.
Yes.
That's cutting it way too close and missing the deadline. Holy cow.
Right? And so, and they're both looking at what are their options if I get fired because I don't get vaccinated.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Well, one of them, there's the deferred retirement option, like we talked about, because they haven't met their MRA, but they have their years in service.
Yeah.
right? That person is not going to be able to continue FEGLI or FEHB. They're
Right.
simply going to receive their pension at a later age because of the deferred retirement rules.
Right.
The other spouse who has met their MRA, they have over 10 years in service, and so they can actually retire with a reduced pension. But it is a 20% reduction, right? If they
Wow.
can make it a few extra weeks past the deadline to be vaccinated, they will have a 20% increase in their pension because they'll have their years in service and obviously have met their MRA, and so they're looking at having an unreduced pension at that time.
Well, then
And
how can they make it past the deadline though? Isn't the deadline a deadline?
well, I'm hoping that their agency will let them use their annual leave.
There we go. There
Because
we
they have
go.
plenty of annual leave and sick leave in place. And so, my advice to the advisor was see if their agency will allow them, because they're not getting vaccinated, but they're not working either,
Mm-hmm.
right? So is there a way that they can use their sick leave to get past or to get to that date where they're not going to lose out on and have a 20% penalty on their pension amount? That's a
Yep.
big difference, especially
Huge.
when their other spouse won't be having a pension at all, or I'm sorry, a pension or income right away. Obviously, this person will have to find under other employment or figure something else out, um, because they're not getting vaccinated.
And you know what that just made me think of is that they could have had their path to retirement just lined up. Well, now the choices that they would want to make on their benefits. So, for example, the survivor benefit, it would have been one thing, but now they've got to switch that because of the way.
Yeah.
If they were able to do what you're saying, if they were able to at least do that, they would still need to switch their survivor benefit to allow the spouse to have health care that
Yes.
didn't get to carry that at that time. And so
Yes.
it not only
Because
switches that piece, but it's a domino effect is what it is.
it is, and it's so crazy because now they have to redo essentially their planning, because
Yep.
here they
Yep.
probably both thought that we're going to be good. We can both keep our health insurance. If we have other things in place, either one of us won't need to have our, a survivor spouse benefit, especially because they have other accounts that would financially support them.
Yep.
In fact, the other side, the person who qualified for that deferred retirement, right? They're going to lose their sick leave. This person has been saving
Sure.
up their sick leave to be counted towards their retirement pension.
They're going to
And
lose it now.
now, because they're going out on a deferred retirement, they don't get to add their sick leave to that pension calculation,
Wow.
right? And so, because of that, here's the other thing. This is when we have to go back to the agency to see, will he be able to, or will the agency rather allow that employee to use their sick leave prior to retirement? And the
Right.
other thing is, if he can, he will not only get an extra 4 months added to his pension calculation, but then on the flip side of that, he'll also be able to access his TSP penalty free, because
Oh
then he
boy.
separates service, because then he can make it past January, in which the year in which he turns age, for special provision to be 50, for
50.
regular employees it's 55, right? So
Mm-hmm.
this person is of
Mm-hmm.
age to then have penalty free access as long as
Mm-hmm.
he can separate after January 1st. So will the agency at least allow him to make it to that point? I mean, these are the kinds of things that employees are having to figure out. individually.
I
Is
feel
the agency willing
so
to work
sad
with them?
about that. Yeah. Yep. Okay, as if the federal retirement systems are not complex enough. They add
Yeah.
this on, and it just doubles the complexity, and it's mind blowing. And so, Cassie and I are going to be putting out a number of videos up to and through this whole vaccine thing, and also going live as well, where people can
Yes.
just jump on and ask questions about, okay, this is what I've heard. Is this true? Great. We want to dispel the rumors. We want to make sure that everyone has the real information and isn't acting out of fear, but out of real, true information. And so if you have something that you're thinking of that, oh my goodness, I need to figure this out for myself, I need to know what this is right now, get on with us at Fednobabble.com and go to Fednobabble.com and put in your question there and let us know. And because Cassie and I are answering these questions with our advisors that we work with, our trusted advisors, and we'll make sure that you get some answers to your questions
Yes.
and some
Also
help on
join
how to
us.
do it.
Yeah. Also, join us live on Facebook or
Please.
YouTube, whatever that looks like, and you know, ask questions. We want to be able to help you guys. We want to give you the correct information, even though there is a gap between an expectation and the reality of what's really going on. And I want feedback. Are you guys having troubles with your agencies in being able to use your leave? What are they telling you that you can have happen, right? Because I know people are already getting fired for this. I have a friend who works for OCHR, and I asked her when I heard about those people coming back to me and saying, "Oh, are they going to lose their pension and benefits?" And I said, "Are people already getting fired for this?" She said, "Yes." Yeah, this is happening. Because the other flip side of it is like, I'm sure employees are thinking, okay, am I really going to get fired? Is this really the disciplinary action that my agency has chosen? And it can be really confusing because, especially if they've read the executive order, which says they would get counseling and all of these
And
things.
right.
But remember, it's up to your agency on whether or not they can choose to actually put those in place. A lot of agencies, from what I'm hearing, are just going cutthroat. Nope, you're fired.
That's
So
it. Wow. Cassie,
let's
as
go
as
ahead.
you're saying all these things right now, what's flashing through my mind are so many different examples of employees and their situations that they are in, of, oh, here's a little nuance that could change everything. Here's a little nuance. Here's a little something. Okay, well, what if this happens? What if my agency does this? What if I'm like this eligible but not this eligible? What if just
There
a
are
million
just
different
so
things in my
many.
head?
Yes, there are
Yeah.
so many what if scenarios. And that's why, if you guys are curious, what are your options? That's what we do at Vet Options. We help employees to understand what those different options are based on their situation. Obviously, we do that through helping the financial professionals who work with us, um, to help them understand what your options are, right? Because uh, if you go to the financial professional and you say, "I want to retire on this date," most of them will run that situation, run that scenario. Well, we take it one step further. We're looking at, what happens if this is changed? What can we do here to make this situation better, or more financially advantageous for an employee? Or what are the consequences if this doesn't happen, right? And so we
Yeah.
really make sure that the financial professional can do their job, and by doing their due diligence for them and making sure that they have all the information they need for you guys to really be able to help, explain these things. And so that's why we're looking for your feedback. We want to help you guys understand how these things are working out. So please join us on the lives. Sorry we weren't able to go live today. We tried, but we had some technical issues.
Oh well.
Um,
Yeah.
but join us. This is going to happen. What time is it, Kevin? 10 a.m. Central, right?
Right now?
No, what,
Oh,
what time are the
my time is
lives?
different than when we go live. Yes, it's
Yeah.
11. It's 9 a.m. Pacific, so 11 Central,
11
12 Eastern.
Central, 12 Eastern, 9
Yeah.
a.m. Pacific. Join us for Fednobabble and give us some feedback. I want to hear from you guys about what you're hearing, what's going on,
Yeah.
whether it's from coworkers or supervisors, agency department heads, who is talking to you and what are you hearing from people? I'm sure there's a lot of different information out there, especially from friends and family on different situations.
Okay, let's hear it all. Join us live, and we will get going. Thanks, Cassie. Such a good topic. Such a horrible good topic at the same time.
I know it's a bittersweet.
It is. It is. But we'll figure it out. We'll make it work.
Yes.
Okay. Until
Yes.
next time.
Thank
We'll
you,
see you.
Kevin.
Thanks.